Name this structure. Right
Auricle.
What is this?
Left auricle.
Left auricle. This.
The pulmonary
trunk. It splits into the
right and left
left pulmonary artery and right pulmonary arteries. Now, this is the apex. This is the base. What is this?
The aortic arch.
Aortic arch. This segment is specifically the
Ascending aorta.
ascending aorta. What is this white structure?
Ligamentum.
Ligamentum arteriosum. What is this one?
That is the
Brachiocephalic trunk. This is
Common
the
carotid.
common carotid,
Subclavian.
subclavian, descending aorta. We remove it. What are these muscles here? Start with a P. Pectinate muscles. Pectinate. Name the chamber.
Right atrium.
Right atrium. Name the valve. Tricuspid valve. Name these structures. Chordae tendineae. This is the papillary muscles. What are these spiny things? Like the bone. Trabeculae carne. Trabeculae carne. What is this donut-shaped structure? Oval-shaped. Fossa. Fossa ovalis. Is that even on your list? I think it is. Fossa ovalis. What is this?
That's your
SA or sinoatrial node. What is this? 74.
AV node.
AV node. What is this?
Bundle of His.
Bundle of His that bifurcates into the 76 and 77.
Right and left branches.
Right and left branches. Then they wrap around and split in branches called the
Bundles of
Purkinje fibers. Purkinje fibers. What is number 61 here? Moderator band. Moderator band. From the right ventricle, where's blood going to flow through? This.
The
Pulmonary semilunar valve into the pulmonary trunk, which splits into the
right and
left and right pulmonary arteries and go to the where?
lung.
To the lung. Very good. Now, what is coming from the lung? What are these two things?
Your pulmonary veins.
And these two things. Number 18 and 19 on the models are the pulmonary veins. They're dumping blood where?
The left atrium.
Left atrium. When left atrium undergoes systole, blood goes through the what? Bicuspid or mitral valve into the
Left ventricle.
left ventricle. How can you recognize the left ventricle?
Thicker wall.
Thickest wall. When the left atrium or when the atria systole, blood goes through this thing, which is what? Number 70.
Aortic
Semilunar valve to the
ascending
aorta, aortic arch, down the descending aorta, and you know the stuff. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Anything that I missed?
Dots, the black dots inside, what were those?
Oh, those were the pulmonary veins.
Okay.
So, see, these are opening up
No, we mentioned that earlier.
right here.
Ligamentum.
Yeah.
Ligamentum arteriosum.
Is every part is going over all of this vasculature here on the heart. So everybody see all of these little teeny tiny red and blue tubes here? Now, this vasculature that serves the heart is called the coronary vasculature. Where have you heard the word coronary before? Coronary heart disease, coronary bypass, right? Open heart surgery. They all are these coronary related surgeries. Now, coronary vasculature means that this is vasculature that is serving the heart muscle alone. Because heart, remember, out of all three muscle types, what is unique about the heart muscle?
Cardiac muscles.
I mean, yeah.
So they're the least
they don't tire out.
Correct.
They're the most fatigue resistant.
thank
They
you.
cannot afford to get fatigued, right? So we'll start off at the anterior side and go over each and every one. You guys didn't miss much. So
You only missed half the lecture.
nah. Thanks, Dylan. All right. Now, we're gonna go over, and when you're studying this with the heart, feel free to make little tapes and write down the names. This is gonna be a test of how small you can write, because these are pretty small. And you can tape on them, take it off, and put it back on. Yeah, that's an example of it as well. So we'll start off with the oxygenated blood supply first. Now this right here is the right coronary artery. This one. This is the left coronary artery. So 48 is left coronary artery and 45 is the right coronary artery, right? Now both of these go around. When they wrap around, they're called circumflex arteries. So the left coronary artery goes down, and take a look at this red line right here. This is the anterior, because we're on the anterior side, interventricular. So left coronary artery, anterior interventricular artery. Now if you can tell your anterior from the posterior and where your ventricles are, this is pretty easy, right? Now this branch here, again, wraps around. What would you call this wraparound? Circumflex branch. The circumflex branch goes around, take a look at this, and innervates the back side. So this is the marginal artery. It's on the left margin. Now, this right circumflex goes behind and it becomes the posterior interventricular artery. Okay. So let's recap this, right? Because there was a lot going on. So 45 is the right coronary artery. 48 is the left coronary artery. The left coronary artery goes down in the front and becomes what?
Intraventricular.
Which one? Anterior interventricular. Part of it wraps around and becomes circumflex artery. And on the left side, it becomes the marginal branch. Boom, done with that side. Now on the right, it wraps around and it's called the what? Circumflex, goes back and becomes the posterior interventricular artery. Is that making sense? Mm-hmm. Now you should be asking, well, where in the world are these left and right coming out of? So since Dylan has already taped this, I'm not gonna rip it out. I'm gonna borrow that for a second. Look at this right here. They originate from these 43 and 44. So they originate from the ascending aorta. That is where they're originating from and coming out and becoming these things.
Perfect.
Is that making sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now we have the blue tubes. So instead of the left and right, we have a great cardiac vein, a middle cardiac vein, and a lesser cardiac vein. And we have the coronary sinus. So let's start off on the anterior side. So look at this. This is one set. You go in the back. This is another set. And this is another set.
Okay.
Right? Now here, underneath, squished underneath the right auricle is your small cardiac vein. You can see it squished here. You can see this one here, the same thing squished under there, and it's 42. This is the small cardiac vein. This one, number 37, great cardiac veins. And on the posterior side, these, they're literally in the middle.
Medial, yeah.
Middle cardiac veins. Now the great cardiac vein, which is this, great cardiac vein, middle cardiac vein, and little or small cardiac vein, they all join this big, huge thing.
Coronary sinus.
This thing, the number 36, is the coronary sinus, right here. Very good. So to recap, we have, what is this right here, 42? Small cardiac vein. This is the great cardiac vein. These are the middle cardiac veins, and this is the coronary sinus.
Coronary sinus.
Now, if you give me the vena cava, now you should ask where the coronary sinus opens up, right?
The coronary sinus open up.
Where does it, right, thank you. So the coronary sinus opens up right here. Because what kind of blood is it carrying? Deoxygenated. So it only makes sense that it would dump into the right atrium. So see this black dot right here? That is where the coronary sinus will dump its contents into. Now, coronary disease is when there is a blockage in one of these arteries or something, right? It could, that's one of the ways you could. But a coronary bypass surgery is essentially, if this is blocked and non-salvageable, then they'll harvest another tube from your femoral artery and they'll graft it to your aorta beginning here, and they'll graft it to somewhere over here. And people can have double bypass, triple bypass, quadruple bypass.
Usually,
Now, if you look at the anterior top of the atria, you see these ridgy muscles here. Can everybody see these ridgy muscles here? These are called the pectinate muscles. They're in blue right there, the ridges. Those are called the pectinate muscles. What are these?
Papillary
muscles. Very good. Very, very good. Now here, in the right ventricle, you have this structure labeled 61. This is the moderator band. The moderator band. And we're going to talk about, when we talk about the physiology, we'll talk about what it does. Now, we talked about all things right side. So on the right side, blood comes in from the what and what? This
superior
vena cava and inferior vena cava gets dumped into the
right
atrium. From the right atrium, it goes through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle. From the right ventricle, it gets pumped through the pulmonary semilunar valve into the pulmonary trunk, which then splits into the pulmonary arteries. Now let's talk about the left side. The left side contains what blood? Oxygenated blood. Now, here, where do you think blood is going to come from? The pulmonary veins. So take a look at this. This is the left, these are two left, and the two right pulmonary veins. And if you notice, they'll open up. Dot number 64 and dot number 65s are opening up. So pulmonary veins will bring in freshly oxygenated blood, and they'll dump it right here into this chamber. What is this chamber?
The left atrium.
Left atrium. Now, when the left atrium contracts, it's again going to go through this valve. But this valve is not the tricuspid valve. It is the bicuspid valve, also known as the mitral valve. And a lot of heart infections affect the mitral valve because they come from the lung and they come in through the pulmonary vein and they attack right here. Is everyone with me? Okay. So they go from the left atrium through the mitral or the bicuspid valve into the where?
The left
The
ventricle.
left ventricle. And note that the left ventricle has the thickest wall. When the left ventricle contracts, blood is pushed through here. This is again a semilunar valve, but it's not the pulmonary semilunar valve because look at this. This is a red tube. What is this U right here?
Aorta.
Aorta.
Aortic arch. Yeah.
Aortic arch. So this right here is called the aortic
valve.
semilunar valve.
Okay.
Now this segment of the aorta is called the ascending aorta because blood's going up. This is the aortic arch. And then from here, it is the descending aorta. Now take a look at this. You see on the aortic arch, you see these three branches here, right? So this one, labeled number 6, is the brachiocephalic trunk. From here, it's gonna go down the arm, and it's gonna go into the head, right? So this right here, the biggest branch here, the aorta, is the brachiocephalic trunk. These two, this middle one is the common carotid. And this is the subclavian. What is clavian? Clavicle.
Under the clavicle.
And next lab, we'll use that interesting model right there to go over all of the blood vessels. So far I went over ascending aorta, aortic arch, brachiocephalic trunk, common carotid,
Subclavian.
subclavian, and descending aorta. Now, can everybody see these things? What is this right here?
That is the pulmonary artery.
Pulmonary trunk.
Okay,
Pulmonary trunk. So if you notice that there's a little ligament between the pulmonary trunk and the aortic arch. This is called ligamentum arteriosum. Ligamentum arteriosum. So structurally, I'm going to do a quick run through of all these things. It would help if it stayed together. Anyone have some tape?